Hello everyone, welcome back to Crack Grade B and very good morning to all of you. So today we are going to do a few more questions which are related to costing, right? Predominantly having a more focus on overheads and few or more questions are also included, right? So see, question number 1. Question number 1 is an example of a production overhead would be. What would be an example of production overhead? Material, rent, labor cost or supervisory cost. Now in all of these expenses, see, material can be a direct one. This also can be a direct one. Production overhead, rent could be of office, of warehouse or of factory. This means there are possibilities that rent can possibly belong to. It could be an office overhead, it could be a warehousing overhead, that means related to selling and distribution, and it could be also related to your factory overhead. So all these possibilities are there. Hence, in this particular case, your example of production overhead will be supervisory cost. Means under this particular head, supervisory cost is obviously, it is important that it is going to be a production overhead only. Why? Because supervisors exist on a production floor. They are assisting laborers. They are not doing direct production. Hence, we cannot classify them into direct labor, but they will be taken as under your production overheads. Next, all such expenses which are incurred for creating and enhancing demand for the products are selling expenses, administrative expenses, distribution overheads, distribution expenses, or all of the above. This is very easy. So you are incurring these particular expenses in order to create a demand for your particular product, right? Now demand, how will the demand be created? Now in most of the scenarios you will be thinking about it that only selling expenses are creating and enhancing the demand of your product. But that is not the case. If along with selling your distribution channels are not so good, that means you are not taking your product to the nooks and corners of the country where you will be able to sell your particular product, then in that particular scenario you will not be able to create enough demand for your product. Therefore, in this scenario, all of the above expenses are important in order to create and enhance demand for the products. Such kind of questions are conceptual and they are being asked in order to mislead the student, because by seeing the options the one would like to take the option of selling overheads, but remember this, the question asks you that how to enhance the demand, and distribution expenses are equally important in it. Next, see, to control cost it is essential to keep control on prime cost, overheads, indirect material and tool cost, all of the above. Now what should be the answer as per you? See, prime cost is, I have told you repeatedly what is a prime cost. So prime cost is direct material, direct labor plus direct expenses. These are all involved in the production of your product. Therefore, these are called as the prime cost. Now, remember this particular thing. Whenever you are making any product, direct material, direct expense are means you cannot avoid them. They will be incurred as much as they are required. But if you want to control the cost of any product, onto which you should be having a proper control is overheads. Overheads are indirect costs. So there are chances that you can spend more than what is required. Therefore, if you want to control the cost of any particular project, your product, then you should be having control over overheads. Indirect material and tool cost are a part of overheads only. Overheads is a broader term, and indirect material and tool cost is a part of it, right? So the option is B. Next, a cost that is easily traceable to a cost object is known as direct cost, indirect cost, variable cost, fixed cost. See, variable cost and fixed cost, the nature of both of these depends with in relation to the production volume. Right? It depends with the production volume. So whatever will be your production, variable cost and fixed cost will change accordingly. Now direct cost and indirect cost. What is cost object? Cost object means it could be a product, it could be a service. That means this is a head under which you include all type of costs which have been incurred in order to make this particular object. Right? So cost object means this is a one head under which you collect the cost. Collection of cost happens. So direct cost is the cost which is easily traceable. Like if we are making biscuits, we know that this particular maida or this particular palm oil has been used for this specific type of biscuit. So we can easily trace the direct material cost with the product that we have made, right? So this is the answer for that. Next question. Which of the following best describes a fixed cost? A cost which represents a fixed proportion of total cost, remains at the same level up to a particular level of output, has a direct relationship with the output, remains at same level when output increases. Now what should be its cost? We all know that what is the meaning of your fixed cost, right? We all know, but the options given over here are such that it will be difficult for you to decide. Now tell me, as per you, which one should be the best representation of fixed cost? Whether it represents a fixed proportion of total cost, whether it remains at the same level up to a particular level of output, it has a direct relationship with the output, remains at the same level when output increases. Now see, barring this, has a direct relationship with the output, all these three options are somewhere correct. See how? If my total cost is 10,000 rupees, then it has two components. One is fixed cost, one is variable cost. So the statement which says that represents a fixed proportion of total cost, it is correct. Next, remains at the same level up to a particular level of output. This is also true in some cases, and remains at same level when output increases. This can also be true. But out of these three, the best one is this. I do not have any kind of confusion regarding this. These both statement B and C could be true in some circumstances. Right? Suppose fixed cost could increase when your output increases after a certain level. This can happen. Suppose currently you are producing 10,000 units, right? Now you have started producing 15,000 units. In order to achieve the production of 15,000 units, you had to incur an additional fixed cost for your machinery. You have added a additional machinery, and because of that your fixed cost has increased. So what I'm trying to say is both of these statements are not incorrect. But when I'm comparing these three statements, this one is the best, without any ambiguity or without any confusion. Now next is question number 6. Which of the following is a valid classification of salary paid to the foreman in charge of the packing department? Now, in the packing department, you are giving the salary to the foreman. What it would be? Indirect departmental cost, direct product cost, direct departmental cost, or the service department cost? What it should be? Tell me the answer for this. What happens in such kinds of question is, you have been told, obviously this cannot be a direct product cost. Why it cannot be a direct product cost? Neither it can be a direct departmental cost, because this is the salary of a foreman. Salary of a foreman is, foreman is not a person who is directly related to the production, right? So if he is not directly related to the production, the salary given to him cannot be a direct cost. So it could be an indirect departmental cost, or it could be a service department cost. Now, packing department. Packing department is not a service related thing. This is a indirect departmental cost. Service department cost means those who are involved in giving services to the other departments like IT, like your repairs and maintenance. All these departments are called as the service departments. Question number 7. A cost that changes in the total dollar amount with a change in the level of activity. Changes happens in the total amount with the changes in the level of activity is known as, what is this particular cost? So see over here, I have told you that variable cost per unit remains same. Whatever be your level of production, variable cost per unit is going to remain the same. Example, suppose you are producing 10,000 units. Suppose it is producing 10,000 units. Then also your per unit cost is going to remain 10. And if you are producing 20,000 units, then also the per unit cost is going to remain the 10. So variable cost per unit, it does not changes. But you see the total. What is the total variable cost? Here it is 1 lakh and here it is 2 lakhs. As soon as your level of activity changed, this I am talking about variable cost. I am talking about the characteristics of variable cost. See, as soon as your level of production changed, per unit it is same. See, I know you guys already know about what is variable cost and what is fixed cost, but these are the things which confuse you in the examination. Per unit it is same, but in the total valuation it differs. And when we talk about fixed cost, so your fixed cost remains same for the total amount. Suppose the total amount of fixed cost is 1 lakh rupees. Right? This is same. Now if you increase the volume of production, that is 1 lakh divided by 10,000 or 1 lakh divided by 20,000. Here per unit will be 10 and here per unit will be 5. So fixed cost in total remains same, but per unit it changes, and for variable cost this is the case. So when the question is asking you that what is the cost that changes in total dollar amount which changes in the level of activity, it will be called as a variable cost. Next, which of the following cost is treated as indirect labor? Idle time, overtime premium, fringe benefits, all of the above. What will be treated as an indirect labor? Tell me. Question number 8. See, in all these cases, the situation is like this. Fringe benefits, idle time, overtime premium. Which of the following shall be treated as the indirect labor? So, in this particular case, all of it can be treated as an indirect labor. Why? Now the question over here is whether these are being given to direct labor or these benefits are being given to indirect labor. For example, if these benefits are being given to a production worker, then they will be taken to the direct labor cost. And if these are being given to the supervisor, then they will be classified under indirect labor. There is no difference between idle time, overtime, fringe benefits. These are the benefits which are being given to the worker over and above normal wage rate. Hence, I cannot differentiate between these three. So what I will treat the question as that which can be treated as indirect labor? All of the above. Because I am assuming that all these benefits are being given to supervisor, can be given to supervisor, hence it is possible that all of these can be treated as your indirect labor. If these are being given to a production worker, then they can be treated as direct labor as well. The question is asking me the possibility whether they can be included in the cost of indirect labor. Yes, they can be. Next, which definition best describes the indirect cost? Indirect costs are those costs which are not controlled directly by the manager. Indirect costs are those costs which cannot be directly associated with the product or services. Indirect costs are always fixed. Indirect costs are always manufacturing overheads cost. Now, what should be the answer of this as per you? Question number 9. What should be the answer for this? See, we have already talked about this. Indirect cost means all those costs which cannot be directly attributable to the product or service. So I would like that you should not get confused and you should always tick mark the correct answer. So indirect costs are not those costs which are cannot be controlled by manager. No, this is not right. They are not always fixed. They can be sometimes variable, sometimes fixed. So this is a common misconception that overheads are always fixed. No, they are not. Sometimes they are variable, sometimes they are fixed as well. For example, paying the rent of the factory building is a fixed expense, right? And bringing the what you can say papers for printing and stationery, that is a variable expense. As your turnover will grow, printing and stationery expenses will also grow. Printing and stationery expenses never remains fixed. Can you say that okay, whether we are doing 1 lakh crore turnover or whether we are doing 2 lakh crore turnover, our printing and stationery expenses will going to remain the same at 10 lakh rupees? That is not possible, right? So therefore overheads are fixed also and sometimes variable also. This is the misconception. Please learn the correct definition of indirect cost. Next, what would be the most appropriate way of apportioning depreciation cost across different manufacturing departments in a business? So you have to distribute depreciation cost across different manufacturing department. Suppose, example, there are three lines of production in your machinery, in your factory. Line 1, here you are producing one kind of product. Line 2 and line 3. So three manufacturing facilities are there in your factory. Now there is a quality lab. Quality lab under which whatever production is being done on these lines, quality testing happens. Now obviously there will be machinery in quality lab. Now the depreciation of that particular machinery should be divided into these three products or into these three manufacturing activities. So that's what question is asking you, on what basis we can divide it. So on the basis of floor space, number of personnel, value of building and equipment, and administrative cost. What should be the correct thing to do over here? See, if you want to divide the depreciation, then you should be dividing it neither on floor space, neither on number of personnel, neither on administration cost. Depreciation is a thing which is directly charged on the value of buildings and equipment. So the part of building and equipment that particular manufacturing lines are using, please divide the depreciation on that particular basis. Next question. Which of the following cost is also known as overhead cost or on cost? So cost of direct labor, cost of direct material, direct expenses, indirect expenses. So easy. We are doing it again and again. So it is super easy. Next is, which of the following calculate the actual cost of product? Cost estimation, costing, both A and B, none of the above. In what method we find out the actual cost of the product? Do we do cost estimation or costing, both A and B, and none of these? See, cost estimation is you try to estimate it, correct? In costing, see, costing is also done on the basis of the past experiences. In reality, the actual cost of product is maintained through cost sheet. Cost sheet is the document under which your actual cost, whatever has been incurred, is being written down. Costing means what? Costing is per unit thing. That okay, what is the cost per unit has been incurred. I sell pen. So in that particular pen, production of pen, I would like to know that how much cost I have to incur in order to manufacture 1 unit of pen. That is the concern of costing. But actual and total cost is written in the cost sheet. So the answer here will be none of these. Next, costing is specialized branch of accounting which deals with classification, recording, allocation and control of asset, classification, processing, allocation and directing, classification, recording, planning and control of asset, classification, recording, allocation and directing. Now tell me what should be the answer for this particular question. Now this seems confusing, right? So can I see that classification is the common one in all those things? Yes, we do the classification. Next, yes, we do the recording as well. We record the transaction. After that, in costing, we do the allocation. So till the allocation, it is right, because we incur lot of indirect cost and hence we have to allocate those indirect cost onto the products. So this is called as allocation. And once you do the allocation, the last is control of asset. This is not being done. What we do is directing. Directing means directing the management as well as the staff to take corrective actions. So costing is regarding that. Next, in cinema hall, composite cost unit is for a cinema hall. Now this particular question has been included from the operating costing. Composite cost unit is seat per show, cost of screening, salary of staff, rent of cinema hall. What it should be? So in operating costing, always remember there are two components. One is the total cost and the other thing is units. Means on what basis you should be dividing your total cost. Rent of cinema hall, salary of staff, cost of screening, these are all part of my total cost. These are all part of my total cost. A seat per show, you will divide the cost on the basis of sitting capacity, right? So if in a cinema, if there is only one screen, so you will find out that what is the total expense that you have to incur in order to run a show in that particular screen, and it will be divided by the number of seats which are there in that particular screen to find out the total cost. So seat per show is what the composite unit. Next, the stage of production at which separate products are identified. The stage of production at which separate products are identified is known as process costing, reverse cost method, subsequent cost, equivalent production. What will be the answer for this? Under this, see, equivalent production is a technique where you see the unfinished production, you bring it at the close of your finished units in order to compare the cost. Subsequent cost, reverse cost, these are all not relevant. Process costing involves that particular stage where separate products are identified. In process costing, we have different processes, and out of those processes we identified that okay, at the end of this process we are going to receive a different product. So this is your process costing. What item is not included in the cost accounting? Product costing, profit sharing, planning, controlling. What is not included into your cost accounting? So in this particular scenario, we do plan for our cost. Controlling the cost is the major part of cost accounting. Product costing is also a major part, but profit sharing is not. Here, if someone will say that ma'am, we do in the cost accounting, we do estimate the profit. Yes, we do estimate the profit. We do make costing P&L. We do make costing P&L. And what we identify in this costing P&L, that what all are the costs, what all are the revenues. But we never talk about the distributing this particular amount among the different stakeholders. We never talk about appropriation or the distribution among different stakeholders for the share of profit. We never. So profit sharing is not the purview of your cost accounting. Next question. A total of all the direct costs is known as prime cost. We know it. Which of the following is not included in the functional classification of overheads? Functional classification of overheads: repairs and maintenance, lubricating oil, consumable stores, or the chargeable expenses. Which is not included in the functional definition of your overheads. Now, what are the functional classification of overheads? Functional classification we have seen depending on the functions. Manufacturing, right? Apart from it, your selling and distribution, office and administration, all of these. So repairs and maintenance, lubricating oil, consumable stores. These are all I can see, these are the part of my overheads. But chargeable expenses can be both. It could be a part of prime cost. See, tell me, can repairs and maintenance be part of prime cost or the direct expenses? No, they cannot be. Why? Because repairs and maintenance is indirectly related to the production. As much production as you will do, you will need more repairs and maintenance. This is indirect. This is not directly related to the production. Same your consumable stores, lubricating oil, all these are assisting in the production. These are not directly related. Hence, I can call them, all of them, as overheads. But chargeable expenses, they can be related to direct material, they can be related to direct labor or direct expenses, or they can be indirect expenses as well. So this particular thing is not included in the functional classification of overheads because the clarity is not being provided over here. Next, the process of distribution of overheads allotted to a particular department or cost center over the units produced is called. The process of distribution of overheads, what is that particular thing called? Allocation, apportionment, absorption, departmentalization. We have used this particular term again and again, so I hope that you should remember this. Allocate, apportionment or absorption. See, all these are together, but first see what we are doing over here. We are distributing overheads which are allotted to a particular department over the units produced, it's called. See, what you are doing over here is, suppose 10 lakh rupees was the overhead that was incurred. Now you have already distributed or allocated to the particular department. Suppose you are having 3 departments. A, B, C. Right? You have already allotted to them. Now, after the allotment, whatever number of units are produced over here, you are giving this particular thing overheads onto that. So, this is known as the apportionment. You are giving the quantity of your overheads or the amount of your overheads on all the units produced. Next is, to control cost, it is essential to keep control on prime cost, overheads, indirect material. We have already seen this. This is overheads. Next, overhead cost for a particular job. How to calculate? Man hour rate, multiplied by man hours spent on that job, man hour rate divided by man hours spent on that job, man hour rate plus man hours spent. This could be solved by a child as well. This is too much easy. That overhead cost for any particular job will be what is the rate, hourly rate, and what are the hours spent on that particular job. So this is how your overhead will be found out. Next is, the following method is an improvement over the percentage on direct labor cost method. Now understand this particular thing. You want to allocate the overheads, right? You do not know on what basis you should be doing. So there is a traditional method. What is traditional method? That how it was being done in the older times. So traditionally, you would have written direct material, direct labor, right? Direct expenses, and then factory overheads. Here you have to do the allocation. You must have incurred an indirect cost and now you have to allocate it to a particular product. So what they used to do is, suppose the direct material is 10,000, labor is 5,000 and expenses is 5,000. So they used to say that we will absorb 100% of direct labor. Means no actual calculation has been done for the allocation of overheads. They just said that on the basis of past practices, we have seen the past data in which direct labor and factory overheads had the relationship of nearly 100%. Means if your direct labor cost is 5,000, then your factory overheads will also be apportioned to 5,000. Now whatever may be the cost has been incurred, they will take 5,000 only over here. This is known as the percentage on the direct labor cost method. You have seen the previous data and on the basis of previous data you have decided a percentage. This percentage could be anything. Suppose in the last year, in the year of 2021, you have seen that your direct labor is 50,000 rupees and in the same year your factory expenses have been the 40,000 rupees. Or if we can also say it for the ease of calculation, let's make it 1 lakh rupees. So now see, what is the relationship between these two? So 200% of the direct labor is the relationship between these two. So traditionally it was being done like that. You used to compare the older data and on the basis of that a percentage has to be calculated. Now what is the improvement onto that? Machine hour rate is your number one option. Percent on prime cost, percentage on direct material cost and the man hour rate. Now what should be the correct version over here? See, there is nothing of correct sort over here. Let me tell you one thing. But it depends on the time to time, that if your overheads have been incurred due to the usage of machinery, then machine hour rate should be used in order to allocation of overheads, right? If there are more labor into your production line, then in that particular scenario you should be using more man hour rate. That means suppose the overheads have been incurred due to usage of more indirect labor. I mean to say your overheads have been incurred due to usage of more indirect labor. In that particular scenario, you should allocate the cost of these indirect labor on the basis of man hours used. Divided by man hours, so you will be knowing that okay, for 1 man hour how much indirect cost of labor you have incurred, and on the basis of that you will allocate. But if these overheads have been incurred due to usage of machinery, then you should be using machine hour rate. So I do not have any clarification about this over here. I have been just that what should be the improvement over percentage on direct labor cost method. That means if you have been allocating the product on your direct labor method, that means the labor connection is there. Hence, accordingly, man hour rate would be the appropriate thing to use over here. Next is an easy one. What are the basis of job analysis that you can do by yourself? Next is an overhead absorption rate is used to. Why do we use an overhead absorption rate? Share out common cost, find the total overheads for a cost center, charge overheads to products, and control overhead. Now, why do we do the absorption thing? So, in this particular scenario, we do this particular thing because we want to share the benefits, yes. We want to charge overheads to the products. Why? Because we want to find out the cost, total. These are not wrong options. You want all those cost centers who have got the benefit of overheads, obviously cost will be allocated to them, right? We want to control overheads. That is not a direct reason why do we absorb. The reason why do we allocate or absorb the overheads over the products is we want to know that what is the total cost of the product, right? Therefore, we allocate indirect costs to our products, and this is the correct thing, charge overheads to the products. So this is our aim. For that we do the allocation thing. Next is economic batch quantity depends on what cost. So economic batch quantity, if you remember, yesterday only I have told you the concept of EOQ, economic order quantity. I have told you the concept of this, and in this particular thing you aim to find out the quantity at which your ordering cost and carrying cost will be the same. Your ordering cost and carrying cost will be same, right? So material labor, setup cost, carrying cost, we want to find out the relationship between transportation and carrying, warehousing and labor. So out of all of these, I aim that economic batch quantity depends on setup and carrying. Why? Because this was the concept of economic order quantity. This is the concept of batch, that what should be the appropriate size of the one batch, means one lot of manufacturing. So whatever cost you are incurring on the setup and whatever cost you will be incurring once your production is done in order to maintain that particular inventory is called as carrying cost. So there should be what you can say trade-off between these two in order to balance the costs. Next, the wages paid to maintenance department workers who do repair work principally for production departments but also on the vehicles in the distribution department should be charged at service cost, distribution cost, general cost or production cost. See, they are talking about maintenance department workers who also go for the distribution department. That means these are working for two departments simultaneously. Now, what they should be charged as? This only production cost? No. General cost? No. Distribution cost? No. they will be charged in the service cost. Why? Because they are providing their services to both of the departments. Wherever they are needed, they are being put into. Hence, we will classify them into your service cost. Next is, which of the following cost of management is likely to have least control? Now, machine breakdown, wages, advertising, building insurance cost. On which we are going to have least control is the breakdown cost. Can you control the breakdown of the machinery? No, you cannot. You can control the insurance thing, that you can, okay, you can change the insurer, all those things you can do, right? But you do not have any control if your machinery goes out of order. You do not have any control onto that. Next is, which of the following best describes a fixed cost? We have already talked about it. Last question, which of the following would not be considered as a component of cost of stock? Transportation, inward, import duties, purchase price, salary of the selling staff. Means if you have produced a particular product and this is kept into your stock, then what values we should include in it? Transportation inward cost, yes, I should include it, because all those costs which have been incurred in order to bring the stock at the present location should be included. So this should be included. Import duties not refundable, included. Purchase price should be included. Salaries of selling staff should not be included because these are overheads. They should not be included into, see, there are two kinds of stock. One is raw material and the other one is finished goods, right? In case of raw material, you have purchased it from the outside. You yourself have not done anything onto this. You have not done any activity. So its cost will be purchase price plus transportation, right, plus duties which are not refundable. This will be its valuation. This will be its cost. Now for FG, finished goods valuation, how it will be done? So the amount which is incurred on the production becomes part of your finished goods valuation. So when I will do finished goods valuation, I will see that what is the direct material I have consumed, what are the direct labor, direct expenses, and plus production overheads. Just this much. The inventory, the stock which I am making into my factory, its valuation will happen like this. That means office and administration overheads, selling and distribution overheads do not form part of valuation of stock. Do not form part. Just production overhead, only that much forms part of your valuation of stock. So this is it. I hope that this session would have been fruitful for you, and if you guys have any sort of doubt, please ask. You can ask below the video as well. So this is it for today. Thank you so much.